Better.
This is what you needed. This is how you know. Welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Where were we? Who knows? We're going to talk about where we were yesterday a little bit. The bear necessities. It's that time of the year. There's bear news left and right. Bear sightings. Bear videos.
I like the pun.
Bear. Thank you. All sorts of things. I used to know every word to the song. I haven't tried in a long time. I bet you I could kind of jog my memory.
I don't know what song you're talking about.
From the Jungle Book. Look for the bare necessities.
I don't know.
Bear. You don't know the bare
I
necessities?
know it a little bit once you get to it, but I don't.
Right. Well, I forgot. You're like Disney.
I don't know.
You're like out on Disney.
I don't know the Jungle.
I read something interesting about wheat yesterday. I think you'll find it interesting as well because you're a numbers guy, so you'll enjoy this. We're going to talk about the world's wheat supply and why we should be a little worried. We don't have to panic and scream like our hair's on fire, but we should be a little worried about wheat around the world. Maybe dive into March Madness.
Did you make a hair joke because I need a haircut?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Just making sure.
No. That's not why.
I felt that
and
was
then
a
we
dig.
also might dive into some March Madness, what we got wrong, some things that might have shocked us throughout the first two rounds of March Madness. Before we get to all of that, Mark, how are you feeling today?
Good.
Okay. It's a good start.
March has not been I hate March other than basketball because it'll be 62 and then it'll be 32 and snowing.
Okay.
And it's kind of not been as roller coaster-ish.
Sure.
I think it's been mostly somewhere between, like we had the day that it was 70.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. But it's like even today's not great, but it's not bad.
Sure.
And March has been not so bad.
Yeah.
So
we should do a TikTok series where you just talk about the weather for like 60 seconds, but we measure weather instead of like temperature and like it should just be like, not so bad. The weather's pretty good.
It's good enough.
We can come up with like our own thermometer.
We could have our scale of
yes.
This is tolerable.
Yes.
It doesn't even. And this time of year, the great thing about this time is when you leave the house and it's 36,
right.
and then by 2:00 it's 65, and like the stuff you had on is now.
See, like I could throw it to you. Like I would throw it to you, and I'd be like, "Mark, what's it look like outside?" And instead of you being like rainy road, you'd be like, "It looks tolerable today."
It's okay.
It's a tolerable day.
It's
today.
decent. We're good with this.
Yeah.
See, and what's funny is, and that's what growing up in a baseball family, whenever we measured rain, like how hard is it raining? We'd be like, you could play through it.
Okay.
That's how we describe.
That makes perfect sense.
You can play through this.
That actually makes perfect sense on how to like measure the rain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Where were we yesterday? We were closing on a house. I just wanted to take time. Not everybody, I don't know if you get to be thanked live, but I just wanted to thank you for the process. We've had a running joke on the show for a while now that I am homeless. I am thankful to say that I am homeless no more. I have a lot of people to thank. I don't know if I'll do it here on the show, but just wanted to thank you throughout the process. And that's where we were yesterday. So if you were looking for us yesterday, that's why, unfortunately, we weren't able to have the show.
What your house purchasing process was more cumbersome than most.
Okay.
But you are like, this is who you are. You're very even keeled.
I try.
So it is, you're very easy to deal with because even when stuff is going sideways or doesn't seem to be going as you want it or whatever, you're never a basket case. I want to see you sometime when you are a basket case because I just don't see it.
Trust me, it's there. I mean, I have my moments just like everybody else. They're just few and far between. But thank you very much. It was good. We did the pop the champagne. We did the whole photo. We did all the cheesy, corny stuff. I will tell you, you'll get a kick out of this because I think there's moments in life where just some people look at a photo and they judge off the photo. And so when we were taking photos yesterday, first of all, I was exhausted.
Yes.
I was beat. I was exhausted. All the things we were trying to do to make this house happen, that by the end of the day and by the time it had happened, when it finally came time to take the photo, I was like trying to muster up any type of smile or positivity that I could. And I was just exhausted. And so it is one of those things like, like you take photos and there's always one kid kind of over in the corner or whatever. I felt like that one kid in the photo, like kind of like what was his problem that day? So I think I'm going to retake the photos today just because I'll be much more exuberant today than I was yesterday.
Well, I will say this. I had a decent idea for a housewarming gift. And I thought it was just, it was fine.
Sure.
You would have liked it. but it was I don't know. It wasn't. And then last night at whatever time, I don't know why, and it hit me. I was like, no, this is so. I just ordered your housewarming gift last night. It's coming from California.
Okay.
And it's not exuberant.
Yeah, sure.
No, that's not the right word.
It's not big.
It's not. Yeah, it's not big. Exquisite. Maybe that's it.
All right.
But I don't know why I didn't. It just kind of dawned on me last night.
Finally
so
hit you.
it says like the 30th of March or
Okay.
whatever. So it is coming, and it's just one of those things. Like when you have these moments, it's like, why didn't I think of this before?
Yeah, you had a eureka moment.
I did.
Yes.
And my eureka moment just came last night at 10:30. So it is coming, and I think you'll get a chuckle out of it. I think your girlfriend will be annoyed, but that's all right because as long as we laugh, then it's kind of funny, But
well, thank you to anybody that was involved. I have family members, I have friends, I have a lot of people to thank, and they will be getting personal thank yous at some point. But thank you to you for helping out. EXP, Mark Messina, if you need anything, give him a shout.
I just got a call from a brother of a client like 15 minutes ago. So 'tis the season. If you are house shopping or whatever, this is. I mean, people obviously buy and sell houses all year round, but this is the busiest time of year. So, and I was just going to say something else too.
Before we go to the Bears, what do you got?
When you mentioned, what did you say? You have friends and you have. As Jeff has joked around here, we got him a cake today. It said no longer Mr. Homeless. He has joked. You have more houses to live in than any homeless person ever. It's like. You're like, I'm homeless. Where'd you say last night? I stayed here. I stayed here. I stayed here. Yeah. You have like 8 addresses for a homeless guy.
I did make the joke, and I forget who I made it to, but some point last night, I made the joke to somebody. I have essentially every favor I have ever earned. Right? Like
cashed them in.
Every favor was cashed in. It was all returned back to me. If any good deed that I have done, it has been repaid. And so thank you to everybody. Thank you to anybody that supported me or helped me out here over the last couple of months. It is very much appreciated.
Well, this is a good life lesson for people. I try to tell my team and I try to tell, my kids and stuff like that. The more you are easy to deal with, easygoing, like cooperative, it will help you throughout life.
Oh, for sure.
So, yes, I'm sure not as many people would have taken you in if you were a pain in the ass, but you,
Thanks.
And we're all, not like we're all a pain in the ass in our own way.
Sure.
But as everyone knows, some people are much more of a pain than others. So, your easygoingness has helped you out through this situation.
I think it did. So thank you to everybody else. Bear season. Let's talk about bears. You actually we're going to pull it up here in a second. You had a bear, and I don't want to call it an incident, but you have a video of a bear. You're going to tell your story.
We're neighborhood, just the neighbors right there. It's the house next door. And
slow down. We're gonna show the video. Actually.
Okay.
So we have it uploaded. You're gonna get to show the video. You're gonna get to tell your story. The Pennsylvania Game Commission has put out warnings that it is that time of year. You need to be a little more aware.
They're waking up.
They're waking up, and they're waking up with children, with cubs. So you need to be a little.
And they gotta eat.
Yes. So you need to be a little more prepared. Why is there a bear in my yard is a graphic that the Pennsylvania Game Commission put out. You can find it for yourself if you want. They talk about different things that bears may be trying to get into. If you have bird feeders, if you have garbage cans, recycling bins, if you have a compost pile, pet food and water outside, if you have a grill that they can still smell the remnants from, if you have bees or chickens or rabbits, if you have them kind of like pinned up outside, if you're a farmer or planter, you have corn or a garden, anything like that. Anything like that, just be on the lookout. Bears are out and about. You may be seeing them for the first time this year. They may startle you, but don't put yourself in a compromised position is what the Pennsylvania Game Commission is asking you to do.
So when we saw this video,
yes.
My son told me this rhyme that I don't know if it's a rhyme, but I've never heard it.
Yeah.
And it's about bear, because I saw a special on black bears,
yes.
which is what we have here. And they are the gentlest, basically, of all, next to teddy bears.
Sure.
Maybe koala bears. Are koala bears vicious?
No, but okay, go ahead. Because I've heard some things about koala bears, but I don't want to steal your thunder, so go.
So the thing is, and I'm probably going to screw it up. If it's black, step back. If it's brown, lie down.
Okay.
And if it's white, good night.
Okay.
Because the black bears are the gentlest, and kind of if you don't bother them, they won't bother you.
Yes.
Grizzly bears are vicious, so you're supposed to lay down and play dead. And polar bears are the most vicious, So if you run into a polar bear, you are dead.
Yes.
Fortunately for us, they aren't around here.
No, they're not. They are. There is. Have you seen the whole polar bear grizzly thing? Apparently, they're mating now more than ever because polar bears
are coming
forced
south.
down.
Okay.
So there are bears that are like, I think they call them growlers. It's
Okay.
I think something like that. But these like growler bears, so they're brownish. They're like this light brown, but they're longer and more extended, like a polar bear. Because grizzly bears are more stout and kind of. The thing about polar bears.
So it's an interracial.
Yeah, pretty much. The thing that I think most people don't realize about polar bears is they are long. Like a black bear and a brown bear, they're kind of thicker, stouter, just kind of like.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Polar bears are much like
they're built differently. I didn't know that.
Differently, yes, because of the terrain and also too just less to eat. So just being
because I know they are stalkers from like they have to go miles and miles and miles for food, as you said.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Yep,
that's interesting.
So
I know they're vicious.
Yes, so they're kind of just more wiry, strong, whereas like a brown bear's just thick, massive,
right?
Just kind of so anyway, yeah. So there's that whole thing. So polar bears could be. A growler bear could be a thing within the next 50, 100 years, like roaming northern America.
I don't know if I told it. I just told this story here the other day. I saw a special of it on one of Discovery Channel or National Geographic or something, and it was a husband and wife, and they were like with a traveling circus, and they had a pet bear, and the husband would wrestle the bear, and that was their act, and. They said, like, what happens if the bear really gets pissed off? And the wife was like, I just stand outside the ring with an apple. And if I think the bear's actually getting angry, I throw the apple in, and then the bear's done, and he goes and eats the apple, and then the fight's over.
Okay.
So like that's how, and the pictures, and the outdoors people have seen all these pictures, but even us, the efforts that bears will make to like get into bird feeders and trying to tightrope along clotheslines and things like that just to get to bird food.
Yeah.
Like they are scavengers.
Yes.
Here. They are not the vicious, like I'm coming to rip your head off. I'm coming to take the Twinkie that's in your pocket.
Absolutely. How do you want to do this? I have your video. Do you want to tell the story and then play the video? Do you want me to play the video? And
well, I'll just tell the story real quick because the video's not that long.
Yeah.
But the neighbor on kind of neighborhood chat, he's like, "Hey, our neighbor got this off his doorbell camera, and this is downtown Montoursville. Okay. It's maybe 3 blocks from the middle school, 4 blocks from the elementary school, okay. And here it is.
This is what came along. Okay, and then we'll tell." So I'm not sure if people can hear us. It's going to be about 10 seconds before, and I think it's going to come from the right side. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's coming from the right.
Okay. I think it's going to come from the right side.
Here
it comes. Right across. And this is right in downtown Montoursville too, right?
Yeah, it's right. I mean, I live right behind this house. And yeah, there he goes. Just kind of out for a late night stroll. What's funny is my ex lives like a block from where I live now. Okay. So my kids are constantly back and forth.
All right.
And it is nothing for the kid to run over, even like, especially during the school year. Yeah. When they're like, crap, it's at mom's house, I got to go get it. Or, it's at dad's house. And so now every time someone leaves the house, my mom says, watch out for the bear. Like it's just like it's hovering in the neighborhood.
Like it's just waiting.
It's just waiting in the, So we don't really know where it came from, but there's, it's local. So there's woods kind of on the outskirts of everywhere. Yeah. But just so think, if the bear's that close with different trash runs, depending on what trash company you use, sure, there are people get their trash picked up every day. Mm-hmm. So if the bear just gets comfortable in any community, just like looking for trash cans, there's trash cans out every night. Yeah.
I bet you there are like within communities, because I've read about some of this with raccoons, but I bet you bears are very similar. They've done studies that raccoons actually learn the routes and the nights of the garbage deliveries and
I believe that
communities and like in cities and stuff. So you can actually, if they put trackers onto raccoons, they almost identical to the garbage routes.
I believe that.
But they're just like a night ahead of the garbage trucks. It's pretty neat to see some of that stuff.
Hey, have you watched the one? And we have tangented here. The guy who made the squirrel obstacle course in his yard.
The YouTube video of the
Yes.
story. Yeah, that's really, really good.
How quickly they learn and adapt. I mean, the amazing part to me that I'll take from it is how they like adjust themselves and fly in midair. Because you see squirrels run through trees, they never fall. It's never like, whoops, missed a step. So when they talked about the abilities of squirrels and how they do what they do, it was neat. But how they learned. And he made this really complicated course. And the first day they couldn't figure it out. And you'd see them sitting there and they'd be scared. And by like day 3, they're just like, they've learned all the shortcuts and how to beat it. And they're just zip, 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 eat.
Yep. And multiple too. Like not just one. Like they almost watch the other
Correct.
ones. Like, oh, it's really, raccoons are impressive like that. The most fascinating ones are octopus, like octopi. Like, have you ever watched like an octopus solve puzzles and stuff like that? It is incredible.
You're kidding?
Dude, I'm not joking. They have literally put octopus in a jar and tighten the lid underwater, and an octopus will untwist the lid within 5 minutes. Like it'll feel around, it'll try to fit. They notice that the lid, like if you shift it, and it'll just keep spinning it. Lid
Shut up.
I swear it is incredible to watch if you've never seen. If you just go to YouTube and you look up like octopus challenges and you just watch, and you can see all
once a week I Google octopus challenge,
and you can see like what scientists and researchers and all these different challenges and tests that they give to like these octopus and them to try to problem solve it. It is, and here's the difference. It's not like they give them a challenge and then like 3 days. I mean, they are literally problem solving, like how to unscrew a jar in under 5 minutes. It's bonkers. It's really neat to see.
So is this? Someone's got your dog riled up. Do they think they're just brilliant, or that they're just incredibly adaptable?
So there are studies on octopus that they believe that they could be like their mental capacity, like the way they're functioning and the way they're firing off on things could be almost equal that of humans, if not exceeded it.
Because I'd always heard dolphins.
Yes, dolphins are up there too. But the thing that's neat,
I never knew octopus were smart.
The crazy thing about
octopi.
The crazy thing about them is they just, with the 8 arms and the tentacles and the suckers and like everything else, they can just do stuff that dolphins just can't. Like when it comes to problem solving. So like even though dolphins can communicate and they can do all this stuff, there's problem solving aspects that they could just never figure out, right? But an octopus, because it has those tentacles and the ability to do some of this stuff, they are able to figure out and problem solve.
I am 50 years old and I never heard that before.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'll show you some videos later.
That's
on.
interesting.
It's really, really neat.
Huh.
We also have another bear video, and you have not seen this before.
I've not
It's
seen
been
it.
It's been trending across TikTok and some other things. I'm going to pull it up here for you in a second. My bear story, and this goes back to when I was a kid on the farm. There was a bear that we called Pumpkin Chuck. And Pumpkin Chuck, no, this is a true story.
Because Chuck wasn't good enough.
No, it wasn't. So he had to be Pumpkin Chuck. There was a story one night, a dog was barking, and we looked over, and there used to be this one garden. I believe my Uncle Charlie used to just throw some pumpkin seeds and different stuff in the ground. It wasn't like a real official garden, but just somewhere to tinker and do stuff. And there'd always be a couple of pumpkins and different things. One night, a black bear just sat there and was just pawing out of this pumpkin it had broken open. And we called it Pumpkin Chuck, and it sat there for an hour. I mean, it could have cared less. It could have cared less about the dog, about us. And I mean, there was 20 people watching this bear, like just kind of, and they could have, with a big spotlight on it, and it just sat there. And it was, so to your point, not that they won't harm you, but like for the most part, if you don't startle them, they could care less about you. They are.
How old were you when this was going on?
I had to be almost a teenager.
Okay, so you're young.
That's cool. And for me, that was, I mean, to sit there and watch this black bear just like pawing out of this pumpkin.
You sure it wasn't a honey jar?
I'm pretty sure it wasn't a honey
with
jar.
A bear with like a half shirt, kind of?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So this is one of the most trending videos on TikTok, and it just happened to come up after you had shared your video. So you'll get a kick out of this. There's some audio to it too. So I'm pretty sure you'll be able to hear it. So here we go.
All right, friends, this is the most Friday of Fridayest stories I've ever reported on. That bear hops into a pig pen. Then you can see there, that is Sweet Mary. Mary's like, you're not messing with me. Then out runs Hammy. Hammy's little, usually pretty timid, but his owner, Rebecca Shaw, is like, Hammy was not having it. Then I have to cut away because they have this weird standoff. And then Sweet Hammy and Mary get that bear out of their house. This was a new bill.
Isn't that incredible?
That is neat.
Hopped right into the pig pen. How about the pigs too? Because they're highly intelligent as well.
I knew that.
Yes.
I knew pigs were not dumb.
Yeah, but how about the one pig coming out to protect the other one?
Did you ever?
Pretty crazy.
I saw a video, and I don't know where this would have been, but it was something like an antelope or something. Because you know how like the lions.
I bet you it was a wildebeest.
Could have been
wildebeest.
Where they pick off, like, they obviously go for the weakest one, the
Sure.
slowest one, whatever.
Yep.
Well, one was injured.
Okay.
And as the lion, there was another one that stayed with it to protect it.
Sure.
And as the lion got close, it went at it and it got on its back legs and chased. And it was just, obviously, if there'd have been multiple lions, it might have been a problem. But there was just one. And after a while, the lion was just like, forget it. This is too much hassle.
Yeah. And just left.
And yes, instead of just being like, oh, that one's screwed, I got away, because that's the whole joke.
Sure.
You know, whenever you're out with your buddies, you're like, as long as I can outrun you, I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, this one stayed, and it was, yeah, it's neat.
Huh. Pretty cool. So anyway, so that's trending. So again, Pennsylvania Game Commission with bears right now. Again, it's that time of the year. If you have some of these things, putting out garbage, recycling bin, compost pile, bird feeder, any of that stuff, pet food, water. If you have penned up animals like chickens, rabbits, something like that, just kind of be cautious, be on the lookout. It is that time of year. They're kind of roaming around.
Can you sing the bare necessities again?
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strifes.
Very good.
I mean the bare necessities. That's why a bear can rest at ease. Enjoy the bare necessities of life. That was pretty close. I can't believe you've never heard it. You've never heard it.
I think I have a little bit. I really don't know the Jungle Book.
Okay. It's one of my favorites. Well, that's my dog's named after the leader of the wolf pack in the Jungle Book. There you go.
There you go. I did not know that.
That's good. Wheat. Can we talk about wheat real quick?
Sure. So what's better than wheat?
I knew you were excited to hear about this. So this is what I've learned about wheat. And first of all, it's just one of those things where you just don't, like, you never think about wheat. I never think about wheat. Do you ever think about wheat? No. Okay. So here's the basis of it. Wheat makes up the majority of food production in the world, which you don't think, like when you go to the grocery store,
right?
You're not buying wheat.
But even like pasta and stuff.
Correct. Almost over 26% of the world's wheat production is grown in Russia and Ukraine. So almost a quarter of the world's wheat. Yes.
I did not know that.
Correct. I don't think a lot of people do know this. Now, here's the crazy part. I did not learn about this reading a report. I didn't read about this on the news. I didn't learn about this in a science journal or anything like that.
TikTok.
Not TikTok. I actually learned about this from a hedge fund manager because their job is analytics and just the world and what's shifting and what's changing. And one of this hedge fund manager's main points, one of his main concerns is that right now, nobody is planting wheat in Russia or Ukraine. He estimated that less than 1% of the normal production of wheat is actually being done right now in those two countries because obviously everything else that's going on. There's not enough money right now in Russia to support somebody growing wheat. There's too much going on in Ukraine for somebody to just go out and farm like they typically would. So because of this, the effects, you're not going to feel the effects today. You're not going to feel the effects tomorrow. However, he said that most wheat production is on a 9-month cycle. So there's a 3-month layoff where nothing's involved, but there's a 9-month period where you put the seed in the ground, you plant it, you grow it, you expedite it, you bring it in, and then it's processed into whatever it is you end up going, and then it goes to market and then it's sold. So his whole point was right now, like, it's not a big deal that no one's planting wheat. However, 9 months from now, he says it's going to be massive because you're essentially losing 25% of the world's wheat production. And what that means for the rest of the world, essentially, he said, he's like, we don't know. Like, we've never had that much of the world's wheat just completely wiped from the force.
Wow.
Yes. And I found that absolutely fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Yes. So some other things that go along with that, because some people are saying, well, like, can other countries pick up the slack, all this stuff? But I think what people forget is that growing it is expensive. Like, not everybody has land. Not everybody
Right.
has tractors and plows and everything that you need to.
It's not that
even,
easy.
Even just the irrigation.
Well, and the climate, irrigation, exactly. You
Yes.
just can't grow stuff
No.
wherever you want to grow.
So even if like you and I wanted to go out tomorrow, we can't. And even farmers that are prepped to do this stuff, there's a finite amount of land that they have to do it on, finite resources, all of these things. So 9 months from now, essentially what he's saying is you're going to see a famine. It just depends where it gets balanced out.
Is there any chance that people just alter crops? Like, instead of people growing corn, now they're going to grow wheat?
It's a very good question. I hadn't thought of it. He did not mention that.
Okay.
So it's, again, very, very fascinating.
Which would then be a trickle down to other aspects.
Absolutely.
Because corn is used in so many areas other than just.
Oh yeah. Well, so one of the things that he said, in processing for fertilizer for the next year, he said wheat is actually a component of that. So what's going to happen is even if let's say Russia and Ukraine, let's say this was somewhat resolved by the next planting season, you're going to have a weaker crop.
There's going to be
because
a delay.
you just don't have the same fertilizer. You don't have the land wasn't tilled over. Like, you're just not. So not only do you have less wheat from the previous year, you also have a weaker crop the next year just because of the logistics of planting wheat.
That is crazy.
Really, really bonkers. So I don't know what that looks like. So he was talking about different, like you were talking about supplementing it. Like, could other people plant wheat? What's going to be interesting is what supplements the food supply for these other countries, these other places. He said your first world countries, you probably aren't going to feel it. They will basically outpay. They will pay a premium to get the wheat that they have always had. But he said in these other nations and these other pockets of the world, like, there is going, like, the pasta, all these other things that you have, he goes, it's not going to be there. So what takes its place and how you do that?
Wow.
So he is predicting, like, not mass famine across the world, but in third world countries and other places, he said it is going to be brutal in about 10 to 11 months.
Wow.
Yes. Pretty crazy.
That is crazy. It just shows how small the world is and how it's all interwoven.
How it all ties and connects to everything. So when you talk about, like, commodities and things like that, there is, like, the wheat production commodities, anything that's tied to that right now, like, people are jumping in, diving in as much as possible because they just don't know where else it's going to come from.
Huh.
Yes.
Would have never guessed that. So I've learned a lot about octopuses.
There you go.
Or octopi, because
Yes.
it's not pusses, right? It's
Right.
pie.
Correct.
And wheat production of Northern Europe.
There you go. And really the world. I mean, 25% of anything is a lot.
Yeah, well, I guess half of more of Russia's in Asia,
Especially
so
wheat.
Europe.
Like, before we move on from that, let me look up something real quick. Like, at one point last night, I just typed in wheat and started going through it. It's like, you just don't think of it. It's in everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah, because
Really, really.
No, I'm with you.
Anything else that you wanted to talk about? I know, like, there's some March Madness.
I have a good topic of the swimmer, Leah Thomas.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I think we could even do it tomorrow. We could.
Okay. We can talk about.
I have a interesting angle on it.
Okay.
And it's been a lot of the talk of the week. Didn't she won a national championship?
I think she won 2.
She set a world record.
I think she got another. I think she won 2. I'm talking out of place, but I think she won 2, and then she competed in another one that I think she almost won.
I think it's a fascinating topic of this time of history, and I think we could talk about it tomorrow. March Madness has been mad.
Real quick about the Leah Thomas, because I agree with you. We can dive into it tomorrow. It is one of those conversations that if you talk to the right person about it, though, it's an awesome conversation to have.
It is. Like, if you just want to be like, but
yes, because some people, you bring it up and it's just that it's the end of the conversation because they're either so pro or so con, you can't have the discussion. Like, there is no middle ground to be had, or no, like, but I feel like,
well, that's what we look at the different angles.
Yes. So, but I think if you have two people not looking at it from, like, to defend her or condemn her, it's just a conversation about where we're at in society with someone like Leah Thomas. I think it's a fascinating conversation.
Oh, and listen, as the simplest thing, there's pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
And I am going to pull out what I think will be at the end of the day, the biggest positive of this story, which is one that you've never thought of, that people just haven't thought of. But I think that down the road, it's going to be one of the effects of, because tomorrow, like, none of this is, but what changes of this, what doesn't change of this, all the things that now that it's come to the forefront and kind of the NCAA is going to have to, they're going to have to make a decision. You're either going to have to make new rules or they're going to leave the rules the way they are. But
this will bleed into March Madness because it's NCAA. So this is a way we can kind of tease it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think the NCAA, when you look at, there's things that the NCAA is so like, this is our choice and this is how for years you couldn't pay college athletes and this is how we're doing it and everything else. For me, the funny thing about the NCAA with this was their inability to just make concrete choices before the season even started.
Right.
Like they could have came out before the season started and said like, this is how we're doing this. This is what it is. Boom, done. And they've done that so many times in the past, whether you agree with them or disagree with them. They've been so hard and fast and concrete on things. And then this is the thing that they decide.
They're wishy-washy on. Yeah, that is interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right.
The NCAA side of that is interesting. But March Madness this past weekend, there's so many things. I'll start with this because I don't think we want to talk about like individual teams or stuff like that. The reffing is atrocious. And again, like you and I have talked about this before. Reffing is difficult. You cannot pay me enough to be a referee. I don't want to be yelled at by people.
That being said,
with all of that being said, it is, you and I have talked a lot. Like I defend professional basketball over the NCAA. I watch way more NBA than NCAA. After watching the NCAA consistently for 4 straight days, I don't know how people watch this with the referee. It is awful. It ruins it.
Has it been worse than typical?
I don't know. Okay, so that's a very good point. Because of COVID and we didn't have March Madness and then we had a year where we were just so happy it was back. Is this just now the first time in 3 or 4 years where I'm noticing it? Very fair point. That definitely could play a factor into it. Personally, I don't think that's what's happening. It is bad. Here's some just.
I will say this. Let me just jump in here. Whenever people complain about the NBA and kind of there is that level of, I think in football, for whatever reason, you have people that love college football and love pro football, and they might have more of a favorite than the other. But especially around here, college basketball has gotten more of a, like, it's a pure sport. It's a better sport. Okay. People watch it more than the NBA. And I think as difficult as the NBA, as basketball is to officiate in general, it's like when you, especially in the playoffs, when you're watching a lot night after night after night, the NBA officiating is really good.
It's phenomenal.
It's really good.
But it should be.
They're the best of the best. I get it.
It should be. This is my thing with the NCAA refs. In the NBA, like people get upset because they don't call travels and they don't call this like tight knit by the rule book game necessarily.
Yes. Hold on. You keep talking. They want the dog's leash.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You keep talking.
No, we're fine. So they have this like tight knit game and they don't want to let go of it.
Hey, buddy.
This is so funny. So Mark is like best friends with the dog. For anybody who doesn't know, the dogs are allowed here.
There
in the
you
office.
go.
Mark secretly doesn't have a dog. He's not really a dog person. But when he talks to my dog, it is like the sweetest. You go from like anti-dog person to like the sweetest person in the world when you talk to my dog.
Who? I'm not an anti-dog person.
No, but you don't.
There are just some dogs that are not as nice as others.
No,
I love your dog.
So with the NBA and the NCAA is just so much more tight-knit. The NBA, the reason I like it, they let players play. They let guys decide. Do they get a travel here or there? Do they set an illegal screen here or there? Absolutely. But the whole point is like, these are the best players in the world. We are going to let them play. And we are simply here that like, if you mug somebody or if you take 16 steps, we are here to just say like, you can't do that thing. That's essentially an NBA ref until they get down to like the nitty-gritty. The NCAA, these referees look for things to call. They call more illegal screens. It is unbelievable. They called a guy for hanging on the rim. And if this kid
No.
listen, if this kid would have let go of the rim, he was like parallel with the ground. And
Who'd
they
they
just
call that on?
and Illinois. You didn't see that?
No. When they
called-
lost.
Yes, they called it technical because like he went up in the air, and then when he came back, like when he was coming back, he held on to like come because I mean literally he was like this with the floor, and they call a technical foul. And it just they are looking for things to call.
I have not seen a hang on the rim technical foul.
Yes.
I thought that's one of the things we'd advance to in society.
We've
That
gotten
kind of
past
like
it.
when you dunk it, you can do whatever you want.
No,
You can do a chin up. You can do
No.
because if you hang too
Not in
long, they're going
NCAA.
5-on-4 the other way.
not in the NCAA.
I can't believe they called a technical foul in the NCAA tournament on it.
Yeah. So it's just, and this is the other part of it too. In the NBA, you almost like, I don't know if they're just drilling people into this. There are no phantom calls in the NBA. Like, I think they essentially tell you, do not predict. Like, we would rather you blow the whistle a second late than blow the whistle a second earlier on time. In the NCAA, it is the opposite.
I agree with that.
You have like there are dudes that they have not even landed on the ground yet, and they have already blown the whistle, have their hand up, and are on the way to the table to make the call. And it's like, just let it play out. Like just let your brain have the extra seconds. And when the guy lands, nothing has changed. Like you can still call the foul, you can still do all those more things. Just give yourself the opportunity to make a solid choice. I'm out on the NCAA reffing. It is ruining.
I will say this. One of the worst things in all sports is when people complain that the call was late.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said, but was it right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are lots of times that I know just from reffing at practice or umpiring Little League that like an extra second.
It just
helps. And you see reactions.
Yeah.
And the reactions are so genuine.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you touch the stove, you can tell if it's hot or not by the person's immediate reaction.
Yes.
And there's that point. If they're such a good actor that stove is cold, but they jumped like that and their face went and then they beat me.
Yes.
But there are enough where you're right. An extra tick late, you're like, oh, it was a foul.
Yes.
So I'm with you. I have been
that's been
the
my
phantom call. I agree with. I've seen a bunch of them. Yes. But St. Peter's, go St. Pete.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Isn't it though?
Yes, really, really good. The pictures of their university. You're a numbers guy, so I think I might have sent this to you. The St. Peter's.
Oh yes, to Kentucky.
To Kentucky. Kentucky is 12.5 times more funded than St. Peter's basketball.
So if St. Peter spends $1 million on basketball,
Kentucky spends
they spent $12.5 million, and St. Peter's beat them in the first round.
Yes,
that's awesome.
Pretty incredible. And they said they think it's the largest discrepancy between a first round opponent beating another first round opponent. Pretty neat.
It is neat. The bad teams are not all that bad.
No, they're not.
And the good teams are like you even saw Gonzaga. Georgia State hung with them for 25 minutes. Yeah. And then they were losing to Memphis.
Yep.
And they ended up winning them both. But yes. And it's funny too with the hot teams because we've talked. I know you're a Carolina fan. Carolina did not have a great year. They were very up and down.
Sure.
But we joked before the tournament, this is a bet. People are not happy that they drew Carolina because they're inconsistent, but they're dangerous as hell.
Sure.
And for 2 games, they've been dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's kind of like hockey playoffs.
Sure.
If you get hot at the right time, you can make a run. And there are teams make it, and it's been fun.
The 1 and 2s, because I think Gonzaga could have lost. I would argue Arizona. Did you watch the Arizona?
No, you told me they should have lost.
I've never watched a game where a team had all the momentum for 40 minutes and didn't end up winning. I mean, TCU they should have won the game. Arizona could have lost.
Well, Duke was losing to Michigan State with and then they went on a big run.
Yeah.
But they were losing with like 5 or 6 minutes to go.
Yeah. The 1s and 2s have not dominated this tournament.
Not at all. Not at all.
At all.
You know who has dominated? St. Pete.
St. Pete's.
How about,
that's what we
incidentally, we should mention this. Did you see what the Notre Dame women did last night?
No, I did not.
They scored like 106 points.
Okay.
I think there's some girl that took every shot she took, like in warm-ups and halftime and everything.
And just made everything.
They scored 106 against somebody good. somebody that I think was seated higher than them.
Okay.
To score 106 points in a college game. And the girls do it different. They play 10-minute quarters instead of, but they still only play a 40-minute game.
Sure.
To score 106 points in a 40-minute game against a good team is absurd.
No, I mean, you're cooking if you score 106
absurd
points. No, it really is.
I literally think they made every shot they took.
We've talked a lot, like, if you watch like a good Loyal Sock game or a good Newman game or even like a good Wayne Sport game, they'll get up into like the 80s, 90s. And I always say, like, it's all like, it's not cheating. However, if you're like Loyal Sock, Newman, Wayne Sport, you're pressing, like you're getting up and down, like all this stuff. When you see like a zone team and they put up like 80, 90 points, I mean, they're stroking it.
Yeah.
Because it's not because they're
You don't get cheap, quick ones.
No, exactly. And so anytime a college team can put up 100 points, especially in the tournament, you are stroking it because you can't really press these teams to death, like not at this level.
And I will say this, if you're a little, like I watched 3 minutes of LSU and LSU got smoked by someone.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was, but you kind of get basketballed out, especially this time. But when it gets to the Final Four, the women's Final Four games are fantastic.
Oh, they're better than the men's.
And they are fantastic.
Yes.
And I know because Notre Dame, the one girl with the crazy name that hit the game winner a few years ago.
I know who you're talking about.
Because Notre Dame won a national championship. So Notre Dame winning last night in women's basketball is no big deal because they're an elite team every year.
Sure.
The men, they're always good. The women, they're always one of the best handful.
Yeah.
But yeah, the women's Final Four games are awesome.
Yeah. A lot of fun. All right. Anything else you can think of before we go?
No. So tomorrow we'll talk about swimming.
We'll talk about Leah Thomas a little bit tomorrow. That'll be good.
And all that. There are many more angles to it than.
We could talk about Leah Thomas for 30 minutes and hit like 5 different topics.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of ways.
And we might do that.
This. Yeah. Be a good one.
Do you have a? Well, you can ponder this too.
Okay.
Do you have an odds? Oh, you like Gonzaga. So right now you would still take Gonzaga.
I still like Gonzaga. I had him against Auburn. Auburn lost. Obviously, they had a really poor shooting night. I don't know if you saw that one.
No, but I know they lost.
They couldn't throw it in the ocean, and that again, it's a tournament. Like,
one and done.
That's what happens. Yes. So I'm still on the Gonzaga bus. I still think here's
the flip side of speaking of teams who couldn't throw it in the ocean. How about Drew Timmy's second half?
Oh yeah. You think he's overrated?
He made talk about a guy who made everything he threw up.
Yeah, but he's good.
I think he made 9 in a row at one point. And he's hitting threes. It was right. Nobody's as good as he was. But it just shows that if it wasn't for him, they lose.
Well, it's funny because like I still the Gonzaga thing, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole with you again. This is what I will say. There is this idea that when you look out, like a 1 seed already lost, Kentucky already lost. Like Baylor lost to UNC because they had to play like a blue blood, like UNC, like dangerous. Right. Memphis is just like North Carolina in the sense of like they have top 25 recruits, Penny Hardaway, Larry Brown on their staff. They have a tradition. Like they've been like Memphis is not your typical.
I'm with you. I know what you're saying.
And the difference between Gonzaga and Baylor or Gonzaga or Kentucky is they had enough to win it. Like they figured out a way to still come back against Memphis and win it. They figured out a way to survive against like a Georgia. Like I just think when you look at it, like it's not that Drew Timme got hot. It's not like
it is.
No, they have multiple weapons. Like it's so funny. You talk.
No,
about
I get it, but
you talk about Drew Timme. Gonzaga might have the best point guard in the country. He dropped 23, hit like 3 25-footers, and no one talks about it.
Because Timme had 21 in the second
half. I understand that, but no one talks about
what happened to their point guard last year, by the way. Who was their super
He's
point
with the Orlando Magic.
He's a Magic. I knew he got drafted. I didn't know who he was with. How's he doing? He's doing all right?
Yeah, he's solid.
And he's like 20, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he's solid. He's
What's his name?
Minutes.
Why can't I think of
Jalen
his name?
Suggs.
Suggs. That's it. Yes.
So it's just basketball, like any other sport or politics or anything else. The most fun thing about doing what you and I do, sitting here and going back and forth and talking everything else, and we can make something seem like something else. Like if we want to be pro Gonzaga, I can sit here and say to you, like, here's why they pulled it off. And it's actually a positive they pulled it off. And you can look at it and be like, they have all this firepower and they almost couldn't get past Memphis. So that's the fun part about what you and I do. I just look at Gonzaga as more of like a pro side of it than most people are kind of like, well, they just can't do it. Like I disagree.
Well, the craziest thing when you watch this enough, and you see in other sports like golf, the whole survive and advance, you can have a guy who in golf, a guy who goes and stripes it for 4 days, wins a tournament, and goes the next week and doesn't make the cut.
Right.
It is that. So, who just won the other night? Arkansas won and made 14 baskets.
Right.
They won 52-48 or something in like a high school score.
Yeah.
They might come out tomorrow night and hang up 81.
I think I told
That's
you
who they have Gonzaga, don't they?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I told you about our Loyal Sock girls and Coach Jacobson about their district championship game. I think I'd have to go back through and look. I think they finished the game. I think they only actually made 7 field goals and won the district title. Because it was just it was physical and it was brutal and free throws and everything else.
How was that officiating described?
It was brutal. It was not.
What was the one you said? Oh, someone called it horrifying.
It was horrifying. It was a very good, and not one way or the other. Like both teams, probably had nightmares that night about the refereeing. So we'll see. More March Madness to come.
There we go. So it's Thursday. We've talked about the scheduling of it, and we'll discuss that because I think you brought up. I think Ryan Rosillo had a very interesting take on it, how they did it, and it's interesting. So we'll talk about how they schedule this stuff because this is their NCAA basketball's marquee event, and again, we've talked about the Academy Awards. No matter what you like, even if you don't like basketball, the thought processes into how they schedule is a little bit fascinating. And I'd never thought about it till you brought it up the other day.
Yeah.
And
the marketing, the media marketing side of it is the way they view us or any of the viewers, the way they think about psychologically what is appealing or what works is fascinating.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to talk about the Leah Thomas subject.
And more.
No
wheat, though. We covered that. We covered wheat. Tomorrow it's something else.
I'm Jeff Bever. He's Mark Messina. That's Aquila. We will be back tomorrow with another Midday Show.
See ya.